This is Tech Addicts.
This week, Elon Musk buying Twitter, Poco's got a new gaming phone, Nubia's Red Magic 7 Pro stuns, ZTE Axon 40 has a little bit of wizardry about it, and Snap are doing a pixie drill. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I am Gareth Miles and this is Ted Salmon.
Hello everyone, greetings to you from North Wales where it's raining. Hurrah! The perfect weather today. Weather report at the top of the show. It's perfect weather today as I look out and it's raining just slightly, no wind and 10 degrees. Fantastic. I love this weather.
Well, if you like being somewhat cold and really, really wet, then it's a good day. Yeah, actually, now I think about it, after introducing the show, we introduced the show last week, or at least I did, with Father Ted Crilly and Father Dougal Miles, and I did get a tweet saying, "What the heck?" And we never explained as to why we did that, and I think we kind of missed it at the time.
We did. No, I can't remember.
No, it'll have to remain a mystery forever. But there was a reason at the time for which we don't know. The show notes have been written for this week.
Yeah,
we don't keep them week to week. So it'll just have to live on in obscurity. Yeah. Okay. So in the feedback and contribution section, we have quite a bit, actually. Matt Jones has written in about last week's little walk down memory lane when it comes to pocket PCs, and he said, I enjoyed the bit about pocket PCs on the last show. I jumped on board with the original XDA and jumped right off at the end with the HTC HD2.
Oh, yeah.
That's a classic phone. They're actually still one of the highest rated phones on my YouTube channel, actually, from an unboxing point of view. I had pretty much every incarnation in between, including the iMate Jam Ted mentioned. My personal favourite was the HTC Advantage. That was the one that was quite chunky, that sat on a keyboard. The keyboard attached, didn't it?
I can't remember. I'd have to look at a picture of that. Yeah.
And that had a 4 gigabyte HDD, yes, a spinning hard disk drive.
Wow.
Along with the battery life not being great. Obviously, powering a spinning hard drive on the go is going to sap your battery life quite considerably. I recall the XDA also had volatile memory, so if your battery hit 0, you would lose all of your data, messages, etc., until you synced with your PC.
Oh yeah, I do vaguely remember that. Yeah.
No, it's a pretty awful thing to have.
Yeah.
And any messages you had received after the last sync would be lost forever. I think the Sidekick in America had that as well. Now I mention it, now I think about it, and they had to. Was it on T-Mobile or something? They started doing syncing over the internet. Maybe I'm making that up, but I vaguely remember something about the Sidekick and volatile memory.
Right.
Kids don't know. Kids don't know they are born today.
They don't know they're born.
Tech was much more fun then, though. It was absolutely. You got all kinds of weird, crazy notions and designs and things like that. It was a wonderful time to be in tech, unlike the boring slabs that we get today. But every now and again, you do get a wee bit of a maneuver towards something a bit different, which I suppose keeps things a wee bit more vibrant and exciting.
I've got the Titan in at the moment, the Titan Pocket, which I did a review on the big Titan, but the Unihertz Titan Pocket is in the house right now. One of our listeners sent it over, and it's a QWERTY keyboard, very BlackBerry-like device, Nokia E6, and I'll do some sort of comparison with the original Titan on that. But the trouble is that it's just tiny. It looks like it's built for like a 3-year-old's fingers, I think. So you can see why slabs have developed as they have, and it's all become universally kind of boring in that respect, because you get a form factor that just works, and many of these other things just didn't work.
Well, I suppose the argument is, does it actually work, or are we just forced to make it work?
Well, take typing on a keyboard, for example. You know, there's no comparison. But using this Titan Pocket, it's just a complete fiddle and a fart and a fornicate. It's just, it's just, it's just.
Bath might be a good one.
It's just useless because well, I suppose if you had to use it, then over time your fingers would probably get used to it. But it's so small, you've got to just use your fingernails. And I gave it to my mum as well. So I've got big hands, she hasn't, and she concluded too that it was just too small. And typing on a proper keyboard on a screen, we've got so used to. I agree. But it is much easier, quicker, more accurate. Corrections are right. The shift key is not at the top; it's at the bottom, and blah blah blah. There's so many reasons why the slab has succeeded, I think, and the keyboard is just one of them.
But then, whenever you actually boil it down to what people's preferences are, there's always someone out there who goes, "Oh, the BlackBerry Passport was perfect," or the BlackBerry 9000 was perfect. The Palm Trio 650 in my book was perfect, because I remember bashing out all sorts of things. I was on fire whenever I just found that perfect keyboard, and I was never able to replicate it since. And I've always hoped that, like the relaunch of the DeLorean with modern parts inside of it, we might see a relaunch of an old classic form factor with modern parts inside.
Yeah, well, Unihertz are trying really hard to do that. And as you say, there are a few kind of quirky designs here and there, but they tend to not be supported. They tend to not be funded very well. You know, this whole Cosmo Gemini thing. It's, you know, Aidan Bell is still waiting for his. We mentioned this on PSC last night. He's still waiting for his, like 2 years later, and by the time it arrives, you know, and money is tight, isn't it? The FX Tech Pro 1, which we've got in the house here, not supported ongoingly. They've just abandoned it seems. And you've just got to you've got to go with the thing that it's a bit like the kind of Facebook argument, isn't it? You've got to do what everyone else is doing, because if you don't, it'll be dropped because it's not paying anyone enough money to make a business out of it.
Yeah. So that deviated from Matt's original input there. But thanks, Matt. That was it's wonderful to see. I have to Google the HTC Advantage Live on Air to see which one that was, if it's the one I'm thinking of, because things get a bit foggy over the. It's the X7500. It was a big screen that sat on a keyboard, much like we have an iPad sitting on its click-on keyboard these days. Yeah, that's a chunky device. Really is. 128 megabytes of RAM, 2,200 milliamp hour battery, 5-inch screen, and 3-megapixel camera.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh. Those sorts of things you don't see very often on eBay now. It's almost like they died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A shame.
All right.
Right.
So,
well, the next one is about imagining putting your mobile phone, inside a fridge with a power bank thingy in order to charge it, which was the suggestion from Gavin Fabiani-Lemond at the end of this whole thing. Babul Mohanty lives in India, and our hearts do go out to the people in India at the moment. They've got a ridiculously horrendous heat thing going on, and they're approaching like 50 degrees centigrade. And his problem is that, quite reasonably, is how hot should my phone battery be allowed to be? My battery frequency frequently crosses 40 degrees centigrade while fast charging or wireless charging in the daytime. I believe Samsung's recommendation of 10 to 40 degrees is about ambient temperature, and even if outside it's 40 degrees plus, inside the house it will be much less. Also, the phone regulates its battery temperature by slowing down charging as it gets hotter. Still, I would like to know at what battery temperature it starts to affect it adversely. a few days ago, I was fast charging at 10 watts at noon, 12 noon, and the battery temperature reached 45 degrees and stopped charging. I've stopped wireless charging completely. I use the 25 watt charger only in emergencies and only in an air-conditioned room. I use the 15 watt charger mostly. So it's a real problem, which I'd never thought of really. How to charge your phone when the phone won't let you charge it because it's too hot.
Yeah. No, it's actually a problem I can replicate here. I have a car with a polar sunroof, is it? A panoramic sunroof.
Right.
And sometimes whenever I leave that open during the summer, the car heats up inside with the sun beating down on it. Because I can't take my phone into work. I leave it in my car. And whenever I go out to use my phone, I frequently take it out of where it is, and it'll have a warning on it saying it's too hot to operate because it's inside this. And I'm I can't use my phone, and it's not something that you can cool down particularly easily or quickly. So my heart goes out to Babul on this as well. Yeah. It's got to be a real problem. I always wondered what people, I instantly think of somewhere like California or Texas where it's ridiculously hot during the summer, and it fires up frequently over 40 degrees, and how they manage it. You don't hear too many horror stories about the phones not working, or at least we don't hear them here. I'm sure they do happen out there, about how they can't charge their phones properly. Yeah. But so you mentioned that Gavin came up with the solution.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a joke or not, but I suppose you could do it. Put your phone inside the fridge with a power bank and charge it inside the fridge. Babul obviously has got somewhere air conditioned to do it in. AJ Santos said that he had the problem with his Pixel 3 XL when he visited India a few years ago. A quick fix he found was to charge with a cable and have the phone on surfaces like kitchen floor tiles, tabletop or marble, and that type of surface. This helped to dissipate the heat from the back of the mobile or the screen and bring the phone temperature down and work quite quickly. Manufacturers, Ian Chappell said, it's hard to know what the manufacturers can do about this really, apart from throttling charging to keep temperatures down, whether wired or wireless. It's not easy to improve and increase the cooling within the phone itself. And Kurt Kaufman says, you're probably doing the right thing by using slow charging wherever possible, as that will produce the least amount of heat. But yeah, air conditioning or a fridge seems to be the best option, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Slow charging overnight as well, getting yourself 100% overnight, and using it during the day, and just, I guess, using it sparingly, because there's going to be a point where your phone goes, I can't do anymore. It's too hot if you're reaching 45 degrees. Yeah.
But you think that the manufacturers would be doing something about it, though, and the people that do make batteries, they say, we've got to recognise this, that there's a humongous amount of people in India, and the 95% of them are using Android phones, and the Chinese manufacturers are pushing that to that market very heavily. And if it's going to be this hot regularly, then there's going to be a lot of people not being able to use their phones.
Well, I suppose there already is. You could pick up a gaming phone, the likes of what Asus and Razer are doing, with the fan on the back and the liquid cooling inside. Yeah, that might be an option, and they might start selling a great deal more in the future just to get around this, and it might bring it down by a couple of degrees.
Yeah. Except that they tend to be expensive. Well, the Black Shark's not expensive, but I don't think that's got a fan. It has got some liquid cooling in it. We'll come to gaming phones a bit later, though, in our hard line on the hardware.
Yes, okay. We talked about Insteon last week, and how they had shut down their whole smart home outfit, leaving a lot of people kind of up a particular river with a bunch of hardware that was basically useless now. And I stuck out on Twitter just a quick reminder about it, because whilst this happened, I found it quite difficult to actually find where people were getting annoyed about it. Now, I'd seen a lot of people discussing it and talking about other options, but the article that I read said about how there was outrage and people freaking out about it and things like that, and trying to find people on LinkedIn and threatening them and things. But I wasn't able to find any examples of this, and I was looking for it. But Richard Yates wrote in to say that I'm not sure where you've been looking, but search on Insteon on Twitter and Reddit going back 2 weeks, and you'll find plenty of outrage. This affects thousands and thousands of customers. I did, and I can't find what I'm looking for, which is where people are upset. I do find that the people who are affected by this do seem to be handling this quite well. And I'm wondering if either A, there isn't that much of a customer base and people have already moved away from it and maybe just have a couple of legacy components that they're looking to replace, or B, I can't remember what the B was because the A was so great. There was a B, but I should have noted it down. I suppose there's too many other options for people, or it's too easy for people to move away from the hardware, and perhaps the hardware was redundant. What do you think?
I don't know. I'd never heard of Insteon until last week. So this was very much your department. The man who buys home connected devices and stuff that you connect across your home. I don't know. It still seems to me that they've walked away from this, and it's not fair. And I would agree with Richard. If they've been, they've got a loyal fan base and people that have paid them good money, they've walked away from it, then it's just not on. And there should be plenty of outrage. So I'm with Richard on this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I do see it as a point where anyone can go out and buy a smart plug or a smart light bulb or whatever and integrate it into Google's system. It costs virtually nothing to do that, and whatever it is you're looking to do, there is a low-cost solution. Insteon seemed to be a bigger, almost oversold example of how to make your home a smart home and having it all in one system. That is good, but I don't understand why people. I suppose it was maybe sold at a time whenever it was a coming thing. Remember, I think it was my brother-in-law was talking about maybe getting into the smart home business and putting together systems like this. But you could end up spending far too much money whenever there was a much cheaper alternative that does what you're looking for in the smart home. Yeah. And having to do the research is maybe something that people wanted to avoid, and just getting one big, this looks like what I need to install in my home to get everything super fancy.
I think part of the thing is the back-end support, isn't it? Like, for example, presumably, I don't know this, but presumably Philips Hue is still going. But if Philips went out of business, those things, apart from an app supporting them, I suppose, you'd still be able to use. It wouldn't just suddenly overnight become all of your Hue stuff you bought becomes useless. Whereas I get the impression with this Insteon thing that is the case. It's suddenly all become useless.
Yeah, but I do think that with the likes of XDA developers, if there was a large amount of people, you'd probably see everyone piling onto XDA to try and develop something to be able to salvage the hardware that's already out there. Right. But that makes me think that there maybe isn't that much in the way of a customer base, hence the fact they folded, because there isn't that move. You know, I've bought a few things in the past. I bought an Amstrad emailer once thinking, there's got to be something cool to be able to put on this. Maybe there's a version of Android that can go on there. And I had a look, and there's not, because it wasn't a popular device. Right. So people just didn't bother producing anything for it. And I was like, right, okay, so support was limited. And legacy support is very much limited as well. So perhaps this goes that way, where their expectations were far higher than what they did. And they did their couple of years of support before realizing they needed to move away because they were losing money.
It's a bit like the whole lineage thing, isn't it? You tend to find that most of the popular phones, a lot of the popular phones, will be supported because they are popular phones. Whereas if you have a niche device, then eventually the one person developing for that will lose interest and it'll be gone away.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a shame that this is the world we live in. I suppose people are not going to do stuff for charity for just for the love of it. Forever. They might start doing that, but then they're going to lose interest as well when there aren't enough people picking up on it.
Yeah, true. And obviously our heart goes out to all of those who are aggrieved by this. We're trying to... there's no answers available, obviously, and us saying anything about it is not going to sort of calm your fury. But yeah, hopefully you do get to track them down and beat them up in the street or whatever. Not that we would recommend doing that at all, but maybe something will come from the likes of XDA developers in the future. If you were to all pile in there and see if you can get some sort of movement going, that might be the best idea.
Indeed.
All right, moving into the hardware. There is the big news this week about a certain Mr. Musk purchasing Twitter for $44 billion, which seems like a pretty big sum for a social network. Essentially, well, actually, I wanted to raise this first because I found this is an interesting bit of trivia. He, a couple of years ago, put out, or I don't know how long ago, but he said, if world hunger could be solved by me investing $6 billion, someone needs to tell me how it's done and I'll do it. And I believe one of the outfits did put together an action plan that would cost $6 billion, and instead he bought Twitter for $44 billion. And it just makes you think, if $6 billion could solve world hunger, spending $44 billion on Twitter is a bit extreme.
I haven't seen that plan, but I bet you he probably concluded that it was a plan that probably wouldn't work and wouldn't happen, and it would just be throwing $6 billion away. Anyway, do carry on.
Yeah, and you're probably quite right. We don't have the ins and outs of it, but even if it was $6 billion and it was to extend to 10, that's still a drop in the well of what he paid for Twitter the other day, or what he's planning to pay for, or what he's hoping, what he is paying for Twitter. Yeah, so Twitter's shares are going to be delisted, and the company's going to be taken as private. Mr. Musk has suggested that it's going to give him freedom to be able to do what he wants with the platform, which a lot of people are not too happy about because having one person making all the decisions is probably not the best thing thinking of Facebook and that sort of thing. But among his ideas are that he's looking to possibly bring in longer posts and introducing an ability to edit them after they've been published, which could cause problems, but it also could help clear things up before they become a problem, and also to verify every person and be able to get rid of bot accounts or whatever, and actually have everyone verified, which goes against what the EU allows, which is a big problem. So he has a lot of work ahead of him, and I think some of his share value is dropping in the likes of Tesla and his other big companies, because he now has 5 big companies that he's accredited with his day job. Any thoughts? Any take homes?
I don't use Twitter really, so you'll have a much better insight into this than I do. To me, Elon Musk up to now has just been this bloke that's done these Tesla cars. I wasn't aware of the other 4 major projects, I don't think, and he wasn't really very much on my radar, apart from knowing that he was involved in the high profile projects he's doing with space and now this Twitter
boring
thing.
As well. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the reputation he seems to have is being this guy who is likely to make bizarre decisions and off the wall decisions, and to play jokes on people and wind people up, and I don't know. It seems like he's an interesting character. With a string of people behind him that have, kind of questioning his personality or his... Anyway, he's got all this money. I suppose he can do what he likes with it. And the Twitter people will be no doubt rubbing their hands with glee as they make a fortune. And we'll have to see what happens. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe I should be using Twitter more than I do. In terms of editing the posts, we use the MeWe group, and you can edit posts on MeWe after you have written them, and I can see how that could cause confusion. So you make a in his case a tweet. You get 2 or 3 people commenting on that, then you go back, the original poster changes the tweet, so the following comments in the thread make no sense anymore, potentially, and so you lose the whole thread loses its validity in a sense. So in terms of that one, then that's going to be a bit of a difficult one. The other whole kind of side of this is the opening it up to everyone thing, and that he's apparently in cahoots with Donald Trump, and Trump's going to be allowed back in as soon as he's bought the thing, and people can say what they like. And there's a big conversation going on in the MeWe group about this, that the rights and wrongs of people being able to say what they like, and the damage that might or might not cause, and whether freedom of speech really is freedom of speech, and blah blah blah. And it's a huge topic. We need a whole Tech Addicts to talk about it.
Yeah. Just having a look through some of the conversation that's going on, and the outrage, the annoyance, and the sympathisers to what Musk is possibly going to be doing over the next, I don't know, year or so before he gets all of these things sorted out, is crazy. And yes, we can't talk about it all now, but I would say that Jack Dorsey leaving Twitter, or at least moving on from Twitter and being able to leave it all behind, and I imagine that there's going to be sort of a sigh of relief, because I think anything to do with a social network is always fighting fire, because there's always someone who's not happy with the way that the social network is set up, and people raising problems with this, that and the other, wanting this and wanting this taken away. The likes of saying, liking something, sending a tweet, and even on Facebook as well, where, say for example, someone says, I recently lost my brother who's passed away. The only way you can either really react when it's difficult to say anything is to like it, which is a crazy, strange way of doing things. And I can't get my head around that is still a thing. And you get to see someone saying something so sensitive and so personal, and then you've got 70 odd likes to that tweet, and a few comments where people have actually mustered up the courage to put something together to say a heartfelt sorry for your loss or whatever. But there's a whole bunch of likes because it's the easier way out, but it's the most it seems to be accepted as an impersonal way of showing your support.
You
for
can't
that
use
person.
emoji, can you? Because on MeWe you'd be able to kind of do a little crying face or something. You can't do that on Twitter, can you?
No, but I'm sure the recipient of it.
Well, except as a full blown comment, you can do it then, but you can't just do it on the actual statement. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. But it just, a lot of social networks need to have things. They try to keep things as simple as possible. Then you get Twitter, who frequently sort of sweeps the floor of pedophiles. Pedophilic content hitting Twitter. Under freedom of speech, should that be allowed? It's such a really big, horrible area.
It is, yeah.
That it has no place on any social network. But freedom of speech is there, and who's decide what is right and what is wrong?
You either have a democracy or you don't.
Yeah, and Musk could be coming under a great deal of controversy for being judge, jury, and executioner whenever it comes to allowing people on and off the platform.
God dear, but he's also a showman, isn't he? So this is a new big stage for him to kind of show off and be the big man, and to be seen out with the latest girlfriend or wife or whatever, and treading a red carpet somewhere. I do get the impression that he just loves the limelight being on him, and he'll kind of do anything to maintain that. Is that not right?
No, I think it is, yeah. He tends to sort of almost say the right thing. But at the same time, he's also quite funny as well. I do like reading his tweets, and especially whenever someone is critical of him, and he comes back with a quip. He can be good at those quips, and I think that takes quite a type to be able to carry that on with a continued success. No one can ever be perfect, and I think he's doing. I don't mind Elon Musk. I'm sure there's people who can throw so much stuff at me about what he's done and how corrupt and things that the world is because of the likes of him. But no, at the moment, I think if I was walking down a dark street and someone was to pull over and say, "Do you need a ride?" and two cars were to turn up at the same time. One was Mark Zuckerberg and the other was Elon Musk. I think I'd get into Elon Musk's. His conversation, I would imagine, would be slightly better. Mark Zuckerberg would probably just sit there and stare at you for the entire... stare silently.
Oh dear, that's very funny.
Anyway, so we'll see. We'll keep an eye on this and see where it goes. And maybe I'll be proved wrong. Maybe I'll be proved right. Maybe Twitter will get stronger. We don't know. There's all to play for.
Or maybe next week he'll sell it again for 64 billion.
Could do. Because there was the whole idea that he deflated the shares and things like that, hadn't he, by making a few tweets beforehand. That's being investigated, I think.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So there's going to be some wireless charging products coming this year that actually charge things across the room.
Yeah, where have we heard this before, eh? Motorola.
Yeah. There's been a few of these over the last number of years. I remember seeing one where they said it was going to be perfect for the office, where people will be able to come in and charge their devices without plugging anything in via this big box that was set in the center of the office, and it would reach out and charge all your products. And I'm like, what company is going to allow people to walk in and it'll charge their phones for them? It's how does it actually work? But this is more for the home, where you can have this lump of hardware somewhere in your house, and whenever you walk into the house, it'll start to charge your phone.
Not quite. The catch with this one, and they're quite upfront about this, is that it works by infrared, and so you've got to have your device with line of sight with the box. You can't just walk in the front door and the box is somewhere else in the house. It's got to be line of sight. So that's the caveat. If you read the article, dear listener, it's quite. This company seems to be quite switched on in terms of accepting the limitations of this and accepting that it may well not be coming this year now, maybe next year or the year after, and they're trying really hard to make it happen. But if it's got to have infrared on it, does that not mean that all devices are going to have an infrared receiver on them as well?
Probably yes, or they'll have maybe some sort of pad that you can set out. That'll allow you to wirelessly charge your device if you set it on the pad.
Which defeats the object.
Well, does it? Now, the way I quite like it, I love my security cameras. I hate having to put a security camera in a new place because you've got to work out how to power that device. And I see on Amazon there's a few that are turning up with solar panels and things like that are allowed to charge, and it can power both the camera and the Wi-Fi unit that's in it, so you can access it whenever needed. So there is a battery inside it that's continually topped up slowly, and as long as you're not sort of sitting on the wireless camera looking at it constantly, then it should generate enough power to keep itself topped up. And I reckon that this could be the key to that, where you can have stuff dotted around your house that has a battery in it that can last for maybe a couple of hours when you have a power cut, for example. But this can keep things topped up around the house, and you don't have to put in tracking for power. Say your wireless thermostat You don't have to wire it in. Your doorbell, you don't have to wire it in, as long as it can. Well,
Right.
doorbell's not going to work, but that was a bad example. But as long as it's in line of sight of this, then that's a great
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah. As I say, I think this company are thinking sensibly about this. They're not just trying to rush it out. And this article reflects that they, I can't remember the name of the company now, but they're
We charge.
that's the one. And I think that they're kind of being quite smart about it. It'd be interesting to see where it goes, won't it? And unlike the Motorola one, which claimed, ridiculous claims about anywhere in your house you can charge, which, anyway, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Poco's got a new gaming phone that's coming out.
Yay.
And it's got a new pair of headphones as well. There's the F4 GT, and it features some pretty dazzling specs. Ted, you must be excited about this.
I sat through the whole of on Tuesday. I had nothing to do on Tuesday, and I actually tuned into YouTube and sat through the whole presentation of this. And
Wow.
actually, I was expecting it. I thought it might be in Chinese, but it wasn't. It was in English, and the guy presenting it was actually quite engaging, and he was very convincing that this device was pretty good. And I think it is. I think that it's got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset, 120 hertz screen as well, Victus glass on the front, 12 gigs of RAM, up to 256 gigabytes storage, 64 megapixel main camera. The camera array is not very exciting, but then gaming phones don't tend to do that. A good enough battery, 120 watt hypercharging. And incidentally, I've got this Chris Bates, who he sent over the cable for this Oppo phone to work with the Oppo 65 watt charger thingy, and it's got to have this special cable to work with it, and so he sent it over to me, and it's just amazing. I've never had a phone in my hands that's charged so quickly. It's just stunning to watch it, and it goes up in 2 digital places of percentages, and you can just watch it going up and up and up. And last night it was on 60%, and I charged it for about 15 minutes, and it was full. From 60 to 100 in 15 minutes. This is just amazing. And this is only 65 watts, so this is 120 watts on this new Poco, and it's just stunning. What it's doing to the batteries, I don't know, but then that's another debate for another day, I suppose. Android 12 on board out of the box, and MIUI 13 for Poco. I didn't know that it was MIUI 13 different from MIUI 13 for Poco. Maybe it is. Perhaps it's
Must be, yeah.
Fingerprint scanner in the power button on the side, capacitive, magnificent, and the magnetic shoulder buttons, which look really interesting. So when you want to play games on the phone, they pop up, a bit like the one we were talking about last week or the week before, which I can't remember.
Yeah.
Was it? I think that was the black shark, wasn't it? Anyway,
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it comes in this lovely yellow colour. If I had the choice of the colours, I'd go for the yellow one. It was really nice. So, yeah, really nice phone. And it seems this article from Android Police is making the good point, I think, that it's not just a gaming phone. It's actually decent enough to be considered a normal phone as well. So, apart from all this kind of fancy cooling stuff going on in the back and all the tech gear they've crammed into it to make it a good gaming phone as well, like the Cyber Engine vibration motor, etc. The phone is capable of being an ordinary phone as well, and the early bird price is about what looks like €599 for the base model, $699 for the next one, but that's $100 off. So no, sorry, that's the proper price, and you get $100 off. So you could get the base model for $499 before release if you jump in there. But it looks really nice. I like the look of that indeed, and it's half decently priced as well, with that up-to-date chipset. Did you have a look at that at all? I don't suppose you sat through the presentation.
No, unfortunately, I was in work that day, but I'm looking for it in this description on the website, and I do vaguely remember, maybe it's this or maybe it's one that we're coming to later on. I thought it said that the 65 watt version of it was going to be sold internationally, whereas the 120 watt version was going to be China only.
I think, was that the Red Magic? I think that's the Nubia Red Magic 7 Pro, which we'll come into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, it does have a little collection of items to be paired with, which is the Buds Pro and the Poco Watch. And I have to say, the Buds Pro look like a delightful little pair of headphones as well. They show them here in like a pinky red kind of colour, and they look really nice with a 4-leaf clover embedded on them as well, which looks rather nice. And then there's the watch too. So I think all in, this looks like a great collection that could really capture a proper, a good amount of people if they get word out, and people could move to this.
You could be a Poco person.
Yeah, well, I do see quite a lot of, I call them Poco, but okay, Poco,
whatever,
if you like.
Whatever, yeah.
I have seen quite a few of them knocking about town. So I do think people do go for these. It will be interesting to see exactly what the price is whenever they come to be released, because I think that people do buy them because they know that they are very, very cheap, but you get a really good level of technology in them. And going that little extra, it's going to be hard to justify buying something made by, say, Samsung or Apple whenever there's the likes of this at occupying maybe the $499 kind of price bracket.
Yeah, that's the early bird price. But yeah. And Xiaomi are getting better at updating their devices as well, particularly the mid-tier and flagship devices. So hopefully they would not just abandon it.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited about those. They look great. Dell have introduced a couple of new laptops. There's their new premium 13-inch business laptop, the Dell Latitude 9330, which has a couple of icons on the touchpad.
Yay.
Just to keep you excited. There's a microphone, a camera, I think a share button, and a comment
That's
button.
just a complete miss, isn't it? They Apple have dropped their kind of capacitive key thingies, and Dell have now introduced it for Windows devices on the trackpad. But it's a complete miss as far as I'm concerned, because they're stuck at what they are. They're single use. They're not dynamic. You can't change them. All they needed to do was make that a glass top and make those 4 buttons changeable to whatever you want them to be. And I think that's a big miss, don't you?
It does, yeah. There's probably software that will allow you to change it, but you'll still have to remember what icon is what.
Yeah.
Because they're painted on, which is a bit
Painted.
weird. There's also the Dell Precision 5470 25th anniversary, and the 7670 and the 7770, and these are precision workstations. But is there anything that we should? They're all 12th gen processors with 55 watts. Processors, that's the word, and they've got NVIDIA RTX A5500s in them with 128 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, which is quite nice, quite speedy. You gonna get one?
I didn't even look at those, to be honest. I only looked at the headline one. For me was the thing with the icons in the trackpad, and the other ones I didn't even look at. That second one down, the anniversary edition one, what's that slot on the side? Surely that's...
Because these are business machines, that's probably for a smart card.
Oh, is it?
It's like a credit card, but it allows you to log in. I think Civil Service use them quite heavily here in the UK.
Good job you know about these things. Yeah, but I would really like that, the trackpad one. If they would let you change, I think they'll do a second version of this, and they'll suddenly realise that Ted Salmon was right.
Yes. Or it'll ship your own bucket of paint, and you can paint whatever you like on it.
Yeah.
Get yourself a YouTube button and a Twitter button. Then you can paint over the Twitter button whenever it doesn't go the way you like.
I do like Dell stuff, though. I've always liked Dell stuff. I know they've got their haters and their people that curse their name because of support and stuff. But whenever I've had a Dell product, they've always been really good to me. Support's good, after sales, blah, blah, blah. And the devices are usually really nicely made. So I've got a lot of time for Dell.
Well, yeah, I have heard a few horror stories recently where they've bought things, or a friend of people that I know have bought things, and they haven't quite been as well built as they would have expected from Dell. So
Right.
perhaps over the last couple of years, they've maybe been releasing things with slightly cheaper hinges and things like that.
Oh dear. That's
Maybe don't
bad.
last quite as long,
That's
or
bad.
you redesign things after they get them out the door.
You see, this is one of the things about the people driving prices down, trying to stay in business with the likes of Xiaomi and Oppo, and people pushing out stuff from China at next to nothing, and then the likes of Dell have got to try and keep up. So what do? Well, they do, instead of doing what Apple do, which is saying, no, hang what everyone else is doing, we're going to maintain our decent products at top prices, and we've got a select audience, and those people know what they get from us, and we're going to protect that, just like Apple do. No, they'll go and say, well, all right, let's try and compete with Oppo and the Chinese outfits, and let's put this crappy hinge in here. No one will notice. Well, that's a bad move. You spoiled my day telling me that about Dell.
Well, it happens. Microsoft do it all the time, and so does Sony. Whenever they redevelop you may not notice, but if you buy a PS5 today, the PS5 you're getting is not the same as the one that was launched a couple of years ago. You sometimes get different chips inside it because they're able to source a similarly powerful chip, but for slightly cheaper. SSDs are another example where the chips that are on it vary from batch to batch.
Disgrace.
And there's no law to say that they can't do it. They don't have to retitle the model whenever they find a cheaper chip that does something similar, and can throw it in there, and it may result in poorer performance down the line.
Shocking.
Tis. But on a healthier note, there's a new full-colour night vision pocket camera that Ted's going to tell us all about that can take day shots at night.
When I looked at the video that's embedded in this article, I just kept thinking of James Gumb, Silence of the Lambs, with his night vision goggles in the final scene of the film. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it's very much the same. So I'm sure they've been doing this for ages in military circles and all the rest of it. But this is a full colour night mode kind of consumer level compact camera that does the same thing. And if you have a look at the video in this linked article, you can see that it's very, very impressive. The aperture setting, the aperture available on the lens is really, really wide. I think, in fact, it's 0.95, I think, that they're claiming. And it's just... It's turning night into day, and unlike those James Gumb ones and military ones, it doesn't just turn everything green. It actually retains the proper colours, if you can believe this video shot from it. I think it's a Kickstarter, isn't it? No, it's not. Yes, it is. It's a Kickstarter, and the thing is going to start at $600, but $700 will be bumped. But that is half retail price. So actually, if this ever gets to the shops, you're looking at £1,300. But then it's a real niche device, isn't it? And it's only going to appeal to people that really want to do this stuff in the night time to turn it into day. What do you think?
I'm a bit confused by what it actually does. I think it records both, or it records it in darkness, and then the software on board adds the layer that's captured by the night vision and brings the two together. It's a bit like HDR in a way, and it ramps up the video footage, because if you go to the Kickstarter page and go halfway down, there's a video taken from a balcony or a window of a kid and maybe parents or kidnappers walking through a park, and there's a dog suspiciously walking the other way that could be an FBI agent undercover. And they're filming that, and they have the black and white night footage. And then underneath it, they have exactly the same footage with the night vision turned on, but it's at exactly the same angle. It's not that the camera was sort of beside it or above it or below it. So I think that you can get both out of this. Whenever you record, it'll give you the night vision, and then you have the optional day vision as well that's put in there in case it doesn't work quite as well. It seems to cover both. But I can't imagine, given some of the pictures that you see, that there's a picture of some landscape with a church and some buildings. You certainly wouldn't take the colorized day vision version of it and stick it in a frame on top of your mantelpiece.
No.
It's got to have some other use. And I can't imagine what that use is.
Apart from fun.
But that's £500 worth of fun you're having to pay for there.
£1,300.
Oh no, it's I suppose the early bird Kickstarter price is £477 if you want to buy one today and get it in October.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get Aidan Bell to do that. He likes to buy things like that.
It's just technically quite impressive, I think. And
it is. Yeah,
it's not just this military green everything. It's actually proper colours. And I don't know. I don't know if this has been done before in other devices. Maybe it has, and I just happened to stumble upon this one. But I thought that up to now, the whole full colour thing hadn't been done as well as that. Anyway.
Well, I think they have tried. Obviously, Google are doing quite well with it because some of their night shots are extremely good for what they've done with their Pixel and night version. So. Yeah, but the technology has been around for such a long time. It's amazing that it's taken this long to be microified and put into a handheld camera. I remember in 2000 being on a ship in, it was either St. Martin or Martinique, I can't remember, but there was a Martin in the title because the person I was with was called Martin as well. He had bought a night vision camera in St. Petersburg, and we were having a play with it on the deck of the ship. At 2 o'clock in the morning, we were running around, spotting each other wearing this heavy piece of hardware that was utterly incredible. And he bought it for like $10 or $20 or something like that. And it was true night vision. And it was incredible. It was absolutely brilliant. So it's taken that long for little cameras to feature something that is similar to that.
Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe this isn't really news. This has got a Sony sensor in it. But I suppose we ought to say it's a Duovox, Duovox, which I've never heard of. That's the make of the device, and it looks like an industrial beast of a thing, really. But supposed to be consumer grade.
Okay, yeah, well, long may it continue, and hopefully they'll get shrunken down even more and it'll go into the Pixel 7.
Yay.
Or Apple will harness it as well. Which will be creepy, actually, at parties with people sort of sleeping or something. Like you can take videos of people sleeping. Oh, that's the creepy side of it. Ooh, okay. Maybe it's not best to go into consumer products. That'll be mishandled. Yeah. All right. Sennheiser have released the Momentum True Wireless 3. These are a good-looking set of headphones with a nice material design around the headphone container. They're going to be about they say $250, but I reckon they're going to be top-notch headphones. They've got 7mm drivers. They've got a dynamic true response by Sennheiser built into them as well, and they have 3 beam-forming microphones and a 77 milliamp hour battery in there. Inside the case, there's a 950 milliamp hour battery, which can give you I think the headphones give you 7 hours, and then with the case they'll give you 28 hours of listening. They support Bluetooth 5.2, AAC, aptX Adaptive, and SBC codecs. And they're made by Sennheiser, so I like them because I do have a collection of Sennheiser products, and I'm very, very chuffed with all of them so far, and this is the next logical step. One thing I do love about this is on the front of the case, there is the USB Type-C charger.
Yay.
It looks like a very, very sensible place for them to be, because historically they've put them underneath or on the back, which kind of these are more like a sort of treasure chest, and where the lock of the treasure chest might be is the USB Type-C connector. I like it. I love these.
Very nice.
What do you think?
I'm just looking at these Sony ones, and you're right, the USB-C hole is on the back. very nicely positioned. What I do like mostly about this, and you know that I won't like these because they're in-canal ones, but what I do like about this is that they've started to not tell lies about the charging, and sorry, not the charging, the battery length of use. And I banged on about this before because they used to just say in these things, 28 hours of battery, and you think, oh, that's fantastic, 28 hours, and then you've got to drill down to the fact that that's shared between the box and the units, and so actually it's only 7 hours between charges. Then you've got to put it back in the box. But they used to just try and dupe people with that with those statistics, I believe, and so I'm glad to see that they're now not doing that, and they're. Because the casual purchaser would not drill down and look into that. They just assume, oh, great, my earbuds will last 28 hours. Fantastic. And no, that's not true. But yeah.
Yeah. I suppose it's like selling a mobile phone and saying the battery lasts until it explodes or dies, as long as you charge it frequently.
Yeah. Yes.
But there's Qi charging support as well, and it's got IP4X splash protection too, which is kind of nice. It's a complete package, I reckon, and the sound quality should be relatively good too.
Very nice indeed.
Yeah,
I find these Qi charging cases don't work very well. I've got a selection here. There's a Huawei one here, and I put that on the Qi charger, and it's very fussy about where it's got to go, which is not their fault. That's the coil's fault. But even when you get it there, it's a right fiddle. And I've got another one, a Marshall one as well, which is an equally fiddly affair. And I've got a pad here that's got multiple coils in it. It should work anywhere really. But I don't know if there's something about these bud cases that is not quite as good as the backs of phones. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, the backs of phones have a fairly large coil. The buds will have a very small coil.
Sure, I get that.
What I did on one of my wireless charging pads for my current Sennheisers is that I found the right place, and then I took a pencil and I drew right angles around the corners of it so I can line it up, and bingo, it worky.
Well done.
I was thinking about doing the same on the back of my phone as well, because maybe I could, but I've never needed to do that.
You're back to painting things, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I thought I was quite industrious with that. I could sell that, patent that idea, couldn't I?
You could indeed. Well done.
All right, Snapchat have released a deeply scary product, or looking to produce a deeply scary product called the Pixie, Pixy. This is a small, spelt SMOL, yellow boy, BOI, that costs $230. It is a drone that allows that follows you around, and it doesn't actually have a controller, which I think is a bit weird. So it must be tuned into your phone and stay near your phone. That takes pictures and videos, and works with Snapchat app, or the memories function in your Snapchat app. Excuse me. The one thing that isn't clear about it, and Ted, you'll love this, is that it says for the battery life, you can expect up to 5 to 8 flights.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, what does that mean? 5 to 8 flights?
Yeah. I maybe five flights of about 60 minutes ago, possibly, and 8 flights of 6 or 30 minutes ago. We don't know.
Very odd.
Maybe it goes up, then collapses, then up, then collapses 5 times.
Did you see the video on the second link that you put into the recording notes? It actually looks an awful lot of fun. These 3 girls are out there using it, and it looks very controllable, lots of fun, day out. It's obviously, it's designed for the kind of person that's going to buy a Polaroid camera in 2022, and someone that's just out there to have a laugh, and probably someone that's going to go off doing karaoke in the evening, Young people with a life. And I think one of the big points about this is that because it's a fun product on that kind of scale, it's not complicated. One of the points that the article makes is that we're used to drones being like a big hobby in their own right, and whacking great big bits of hardware and charging it forever to get a short flight and blah blah blah, and it's all a big hobbyist thing. Get a license to fly it in the UK, and this is just just fun that anyone can pick up and use, and relatively well. It's not really $220, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah.
So it's not that cheap, but people have got plenty of money these days, it seems, and I'm sure that they'll sell well. Is my view. Do you have to have a Snapchat account to use it? Do you, an app?
I would imagine so.
Oh,
yeah.
right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so it's going to be $230 when it arrives, or there's an option to have to pay $250, and you get the drone with 2 batteries.
Oh.
So you can keep it charged up, and that'll get you between 10 and 16 flights. Or whenever you happen to be using it.
That's a strange way of saying about the battery life, isn't it? In numbers of flights.
Yeah, but we do hear quite a bit about some of these products. Like Snapchat put out their glasses once before and never saw them. Or maybe they are out there and I'm just ignorant to that. But also Amazon were looking to do a drone that flew around your house and kept an eye on everything, and I've never seen that appear in the wild. So perhaps this is just another vaporware product. Yes, or it'll just be something that's overpriced, really, and it's just a cheap drone with 640 by 480 footage or something like that. That probably you could pick up from a market stall for 15 quid.
Yeah, it seems quite smart though, in terms of like I say, those videos show those girls being followed around, and you can program it apparently to just track you and keep you. So if you're going on a bike ride or something, you could just have it floating behind you, and it will stay with you, that sort of thing. It just looks lots of fun to me.
Yeah, there's no laws broken there, is there? Just walking around with a drone behind you, clinging onto you. That's a question. Well, Huawei have not been silent. We haven't featured Huawei in a while, I don't think. And this week we have 2 new products. The Huawei XS2 has launched. This is a fold-out device that features, actually one screen. And it's an interesting-looking device, I have to say. And I quite like the design. And hopefully having the one screen as opposed to another screen round the back like you would get on a Samsung, where it closes together. This closes outward, if that makes sense. It might make it a wee bit cheaper, perhaps. The specs aren't fabulous, but it does look a pretty good device. Ted, tell us about it.
Oh, well, I was trying to work out what the 2 has got over the original, the Mate SX. XS, and I couldn't quite get to that data. I guess it's just like an upgrade in many ways. Not that we've ever seen one. Well, I haven't anyway. I mean, no one's actually. I've never seen this brought to a review, even. I don't think on YouTube or anything. I wonder if it's the original, the XS was actually released properly, or if it was only sold in China and it was kept under wraps. Anyway, the whole idea is really interesting, I think, to fold out in the way it does. The problem is, of course, is that while it's folded up, unlike the Samsung device and others, like the Motorola, the Microsoft one, is that the screen's on the outside the whole time. You're right, the specs look very interesting, although not cutting edge. Snapdragon 888, for example, is nowhere near cutting edge these days, but loads of RAM, loads of storage.
That's a 4G as well.
Oh yeah, so it is. It's a 4G, of course. Snapdragon 888. Yeah. So it feels like it's a bit kind of late out of the... apart from the fact that it hasn't got GMS on it, so all your Google stuff's gone. It's expensive, up to $2,000, depending on the version you want to get, the variation. But in terms of tech, it looks wonderful, as did the first version, which we never saw. And I guess that we're probably never going to see this one, which is a shame. I'd like to see it.
Sorry. I broke my toe last week.
You broke your toe?
Yeah, I've got a leg in the middle of my desk, and I just kicked it, and I'm not wearing any shoes.
Oh, no. I can empathise.
I'm going to cry a little. Yeah. Yeah, it runs Harmony OS too.
Exactly. So no one will ever use it outside of China. Well, few people. Would you like me to carry on talking while you recover?
No, it's all right. Because I'm just crying slightly. It's got Wi-Fi 6 on board and Huawei's NM card format as opposed to micro SD card.
I'm amazed that's still going.
I know. It's crazy that. Well, obviously, it must be a big thing out in China. It must be working out in China, otherwise they would have dropped it by now. But the price that they're asking for is quite astronomical.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like the design. I think it looks nice, and I think they've done they've done an interesting job with how they folded it and left the cameras on the back in a kind of sliver down one side. I really like the design. It's just this whole bloomin' Donald Trump thing about Huawei again, isn't it? And I mean, I'm not standing on either side of the argument technically about what was done with Huawei, because I don't understand it properly. But it's just a shame for us users that we can't get in on this hardware unless we completely adopt Huawei's stuff and abandon Google.
Yeah, and I don't think there's too much interest in jumping onto the Harmony OS system whenever Android is fully featured. The other Huawei device we have to talk about is the Huawei MatePad SE. This is a 10.1-inch cheapy tablet that should be about $195. It's another 4G model, which is an interesting decision there to focus on 4G devices. It's got an octa-core Kirin 710A processor inside with a Mali G51 GPU. It does 1920 by 1200 resolution and has a bunch of extra features. Ted, do you want to take those while I have a call?
What's interesting also is that it's got decent sounding speakers, apparently. USB-C, 5100 milliamp hour battery with 2 amp charging. I can't ever work out what that means, but it's fairly low end, really, isn't it? It's $195. It's in the same territory as the Nokia T20 and the SE extension on the MatePad thing says what it is. I think launching in China, Huawei again only, no GMS. Ditto from the last item, really. Ditto with GMS and Google services. What a big shame. And I don't care about 4G because I can't get 5G anyway. So, for the foreseeable future, 4G is perfectly good enough for me. And it suits me fine. Do let me know when you've recovered.
I'm fine now, yeah. I hope so. I'll probably talk for a while and then I'll get that tickle back, which is... Yeah, no, it looks like an all right device. In a time whenever Android tablets seem to be picking up the pace, this is another one that could have had the potential, but it's running Harmony OS.
Great shame. I think they need to try and sort that out because we're missing out big time. But apparently, Honor now are taking the crown in the Far East as well. The Honor apparently has jumped up to the biggest selling device now in China at the moment, above Huawei. So hiving Honor off from Huawei seems to have kind of been a good move, and I'm sure that they've got common shareholders anyway, haven't they? The Chinese military comes to mind.
Yeah, that's true. All right, there's a little phone that we mentioned earlier in the show, the Nubia Red Magic 7 Pro, which is launched in China. And yes, Ted, you're quite right. This is the one with the switch around with the old power.
Yeah.
There, the 65 watt is going to be the global model, and then the 135 watt charging is going to be Chinese, which is wow, that's even faster. It's got a 6.8 full HD plus AMOLED screen with the 120 hertz refresh rate and 960 hertz touch sampling rate. You don't see that talked about terribly often now, do you? It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's got 256 gigabytes of storage, and there's the Obsidian version, which has the 256. The Supernova has 512 gigabytes of storage, which is obviously what Ted would have to have all his pictures of lingerie models on there. There's the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 system on chip in there, which is the 5G version, so obviously it's going to be a nice 5G. It runs Red Magic OS 5 out of the box. And it's got a dedicated gaming chip called the Red Core 1 to handle audio, RGB lighting, and haptic feedback. Wow.
Yeah. I think it is a bit of wow. I fancy one of these. I was trying to work out what the size is. Oh, yeah, I think you said actually 6.8-inch AMOLED screen. So it's not a small device. But then if you're buying a gaming phone, effectively, then you want to have it quite big, don't you? And not titchy, because you might as well just use your computer if you're going to have a small phone.
Use a Tamagotchi.
Exactly. So yeah, I really do like this stuff. Although I've never seen what Red Magic OS 5 is like at all. I'm just at the moment getting used to the Oppo front end, which is the Color OS 12. And, that's complicated enough. Introducing another one, Red Magic OS 5. Who knows what that might be like. But also...
I'm sure it's fine.
But also, again, we've not seen... Well, I don't think I've seen one of these on sale anywhere outside of the East. So it's another question of importing it and buying it and shipping it, unless someone, Red Magic international market are going to pick it up. It says the international model. Perhaps they are selling that straight out of their website then internationally.
Could do, yeah.
So
it's the Obsidian version is only £679.
Yeah.
And it has Gorilla Glass 5 on there. But if you look at the picture on the right, which shows the back of it with the Snapdragon emblem on it, up in the top left-hand corner, there's a wee fan that says 2,000 revs per minute max fan on there as well. Which obviously is going to help your gaming. So that must be where the processor is, and then it just keeps the processor cool.
The thing that's always missing from gaming phones, it seems, is Qi charging. They just can't seem to put that in. However, if you've got 135 watt charging, you plug it in, and then 5 minutes later it's full anyway. It does come to the point where you have to admit that you probably don't need Qi charging anymore.
No, that's absolutely right. Yeah, that's going to be a phenomenal charge rate. I hope there's going to be some videos of people charging their phones once that's out there.
Yeah. Looks nice.
Yeah. Also, keeping on the sort of the forgotten brands, which we don't tend to talk about terribly often. There's the ZTE Axon 40, which could be arriving on May the 9th, with an under-display camera. And ZTE seem to be doing this, having some rather nice features in their latest Axon version.
Yeah.
So what can we expect from this?
Well, the Axon 30 was really nice. I had hands-on with that. In fact, I did a review of that because someone loaned me it, and it was really nice. But I didn't get hands-on with the one, I think it was the 30 Pro that had the under-glass camera thing going on. So I'm not sure how good that was. But no doubt the next generation, this Axon 40, will have made that better. Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? And I don't know whether whether this is going to be released globally. I guess it will be, because the Axon 30 was, although all of this article is about the Chinese launch, as it tends to be. But yeah, nice. I really liked the Axon 30. It was a really nice device, and it was very vanilla in many ways in terms of Android. Worked really well, and this is bang up to date specs, as you say, Gareth, with the latest chipset and all the rest of it.
So they said that the camera is going to be indistinguishable from the rest of the panel, and they've given confirmation that the panel will reach 400 ppi, which is kind of nice as well. So that's one to watch for. I do remember, was it ZTE the 30 Pro where there was a little square that was a wee bit shaded or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was that model, but I do remember they were showing off pictures of it where if you held the phone at the right angle, you could actually see the little module underneath the glass, couldn't you?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that
Interesting to
was.
see how this works out.
I'm not sure if that was the Axon, though. We wouldn't like to blight them without checking.
True. And, accuracy is at the forefront of the Tech Addicts podcast every week. So Sony's going to unveil a new Xperia phone 2 days after ZTE reveal their Exxon 40. That's May the 11th. I suppose technically that's 3 days if you're, is it 2? It's, whichever way, depending on what time you get out of bed. There's going to be a new generation of Xperia phones arriving. The Xperia 1 Mark IV and the new Xperia 5 and Xperia 10. What can we expect to see from these?
Well, again, it's all, there's no hard information really, only leaks about this. But the 1 Mark IV shows a familiar design, it says, with flatter sides than the Xperia One Mark III. Expected to have the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset alongside a 6.5 inch display, which is the same as it's got now. Quad camera. They reckon that it looks like it's probably going to have a periscope camera module, which is a change. What I'd like to see though is the Xperia 5 Mark IV with a Qi charging facility. I think that would just make a huge difference to the 5. And as I said before, and nobody knows really if that's going to be the case or not. They seem to have throughout this whole range stuck with Qi charging only with the Xperia 1, and they might continue to do that. Say, the 5 doesn't have Qi charging. That's it. The whole history of the range, and we're sticking with that, which is a shame. And the 10 Mark IV will be very similar to the 10 Mark III, as the 10 Mark III was very similar to the 10 Mark II, to be honest. It was only the 10 Mark I and the 5 Mark I and the 1 Mark I that were radically different to the next generations. I think the 1 to 2 leap was the big one, and then from there on they've been kind of more incremental changes. But yeah. Looks nice. Depending on pricing. I've no doubt that the Xperia 1 Mark IV will be, 1,500 quid or something, and the 5 Mark IV might even break the £1,000 barrier on release. I don't know, but hopefully the 10 Mark IV will be, kept under 400 or at least 450 or something.
Yeah, that'll be kind of nice. Ooh, I just had an email from Casio to say that the G-Shock that we talked about a wee while ago has been released, the Bluetooth one.
130 quid, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. They're showing... it's difficult to work out which model's which whenever you go to your website, but I do fancy one of those. It's my anniversary in a couple of days, so I have dropped hints that that's what I would like from my wife. It'll be interesting to see whether or not I get that, or if I get anything at all. It's a bit more like Valentine's Day, where the bloke doesn't get anything. He's just expected to take the wife out for dinner.
No comment.
Yeah. No comment. All right, flop your drop about an app. Google they got a bit of trouble actually with France's data protection body and got fined $150 million. No, euros. It's $170 million and another amount in pounds. They are now going forward going to be using a new sort of splashy type screen whenever you're entering one of their websites that allows you to reject all tracking cookies as you go in, because tracking cookies are, the whole front end of that where you get to accept and reject is a real pain in the ass. I'm looking at you, Tech Radar, because getting to access the site, especially whenever it shows up in your news feed and it doesn't already have cookies built into it, you have to go and look at everything because they're all slightly different. There's no just one form that you fill out. And hopefully this one from Google will help revolutionize the way we do things on the internet whenever we're going to a website here in the UK or in Europe. Ted, what have you found whenever it comes to accepting and rejecting?
This is just Google themselves, is it? So there's another billion other companies out there that are not going to do this, but just Google are going to do this. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, in which case, let's start working on the other billion minus one then, because it's all very well one company doing it. It is annoying. And this article is quite right. Most people, myself included, just can't be bothered to go through and read it and work out what you're going to give them permission for and what you're not. And so everyone just clicks on accept all. And, life's too short to not do that. So looking after our privacy and our sharing and all the rest of it, this is a good move from Google, even if they have been forced into it by huge fines. But then everyone else needs to do it, as I say.
Yeah. And it is something that is, I think it's just getting more and more complex. There's websites where you can't actually determine what you're clicking on. And it's not obvious what's on and what isn't. And there have been a few, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head over the last couple of days that I've clicked on, but I've gone in to reject them all, and it hasn't been obvious.
Yeah.
And it was my belief that they had to be all turned off by default, and it was an opt-in thing as opposed to an opt-out of. But there have been websites where I've gone, and they've all been turned on, and I've had to manually turn them off. And it's not a question on some websites of hitting reject all. It's a question of going down, clicking them all, and then going to the next page and clicking some more, and then saying accept.
Yeah.
And you think, am I hitting accept? Is it going to turn them all back on now? Because there's no other option. It depends from website to website. And you and I are both somewhat technically savvy. Our listeners may disagree with that. But whenever it comes to the likes of our parents, they are not technically savvy.
No.
So they would look at this and go, I don't know what I'm clicking here. What does some of this mean?
Yeah.
And looking at the terminology, even just in the example one for Google, a pensioner's going to really have trouble working out what all this means and just hit accept all just for the sake of it.
You ageist pig, you.
Well, my mother says it to me all the time, so I do have a foundation for my comments.
I know many young people too that wouldn't have a clue what to click and get confused with it. But I completely take your point, and you're quite right. It needs it does need mopping up and sorting out. But this Google thing, as big as Google is on the internet and out there, it's a drop in the ocean, isn't it, compared to the billions of other websites that are not going to do this.
Yeah, it might actually be in whoever makes the decision's best interest to release a standard amount of questions that can be asked in a standard form. Say, for example, whenever you're doing customs and excise, it's a standard form that you fill out for things to be able to travel across the border. This should be a similar thing where you know exactly what you're dealing with whenever you're looking at it and not having to read through everything because you're only jumping on to quickly read a news article, but you have to read pages and pages of crap before you end up handing over all of your information to some bandit.
Exactly.
Yes.
Rest your case.
Yeah, we'll move on before we say anything stupid. I think I've already done that many, 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 many times over the years. Constantly, 2 hours every week. YouTube is rolling out super thanks, and this is a new function that they're putting in there. Whenever you watch a YouTube video and you find something that you feel has made a difference to your life, sometimes I do get the odd comment that says this is a big waste of time, and then it'll quickly followed up by another person saying thank you so much for what you've done. You've helped me. And you can now give super thanks to someone for whatever it is you've done. And I think it's the sort of thing that actually, whenever you look at the long game of it, it could help people monetize videos that are actually helping people out there. If you could make extra money by actually doing something that isn't as negative as so many YouTube videos tend to be, that you could actually make a few more coins for the sake of doing it. You can basically tip someone who's made a video between £2 and £50 for making the video that they've done, just to express a little bit of joy, or $2 and $50. Sorry.
How does that work? Like through PayPal or something?
I don't know. It hasn't happened to me yet. But if you have a look at any video that has it turned on, there is a thanks button beside download, and whenever you click on that, it says, would you like to send a bonus to Mr. Gareth?
Have you turned it on for your site?
I have, yes.
And there's no base criteria before you're allowed to turn it on. Anyone can turn it on.
It's only available in certain areas.
Right.
That's the only thing I know about it. And I'm not entirely sure just how many people actually, or just how much of a percentage is actually going to go to Google. You know, do you get the full £2,
right.
or do you get £1.75, or do you get £1 and Google get the 50-50?
Right.
I haven't read through it that closely to see what happens, because I only just turned it on about 16 minutes before we started recording.
So I thought that this was already in place under a different guise, because it was what is it? Follow? No, not follow. There's another button. You can subscribe, and then some places have got this other thing called,
Yes.
what is it called?
There was, you can subscribe to certain channels, and they get a monthly payment, I think.
Yeah, but
It's kind of like a Patreon thing.
Yeah, that's right. But it's called something, isn't it? What's his name? MBK. What's it's got it on his, and it's a different button. Let me quickly see if I can get to it. What's his name? MKBH.
MKB. Yeah.
MK. Oh, that's the one. Yeah. Let me see if I can, because it's on all of his videos. So if I,
There you go, Marcus. There's a wee bit of advertising for you. I'm sure you need it.
yeah, subscribe or the button's missing now. Oh, well, maybe they've knocked it on the head then. That other system, because it doesn't look as though it's there now. That's weird.
Yeah, I don't see it either. No,
That's very odd.
Maybe the thanks is replacing it.
Yeah, maybe it is.
I do know that. I think it was through, was it Amazon Prime or something?
Oh no, here it is.
Got
It's join. That's it. It's join. And if you join it, you have to then give him some money. In order to be a joined up member. So my question, going back to my original question, how is that different then? I suppose the difference is probably that it's the super thanks is a one-off payment on the fly, and joining it is maybe a regular payment.
It could be, yeah, like a monthly subscription where you hand over $2 or whatever. Yeah, I think one of the premium subscriptions includes a subscription that you can use. I don't know if it's YouTube Premium or if it's Amazon Prime or something, but I remember I used it on Sloops, which is a retro gaming channel, and I wanted to support him because he does some excellent retrospectives on gaming series over the years and things like that, and I like him a great deal. I think he's very funny, and I'll throw him a shout out from here because he needs the traffic. So you could subscribe to that, and I used whatever freebie it was that I had on him, but I can't remember where that came from,
Right.
or where I can cancel it or see it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure it's there somewhere. Oh, purchases of memberships. No, never mind. We'll move on.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what is buried. I was looking at PayPal this week, and the ability to cancel a prepayment thing is really well buried in PayPal. They don't want you to cancel that. I signed up to this thing, and I had to. It was Disney Plus, because Chris Kelly, friend of the group, gave me his Samsung generated year's membership, which is great, and thank you to Chris for that. But in order to activate that, I had to go and give them £1, and so I went into PayPal and did it that way. And then I thought to myself, after I'd given them the £1, I thought, right, I'll go and turn that off so that at the end of the year they can't nick my monthly payment. And in order to do that, you've got to go all sorts of hoops. Not at all obvious. PayPal do not want you cancelling that. So that was just an aside. Do carry on.
No. I think PayPal is a bit of a messily laid out thing that they've tried to simplify, but actually made it more complicated for the things that you might need to use quite quickly.
Indeed.
The whole I ordered a thing from WD. I think I covered it last week as well. An SSD from WD, and I cancelled it. And it was quite difficult to cancel, and I was waiting for my money back, and it took almost 3 weeks or so for me to get my money back. And 2 days after I got my money back, they sent it to me, and it'll be arriving on Tuesday.
So you got it for free.
Yeah, but I cancelled the order 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Over 3 weeks ago now, actually. And do I have to now go through the whole annoyance of having to send this back to them? They know very well that I cancelled it. I emailed them and said, I cancelled this order. Can you stop, what is it, UPS or whatever it is from delivering it?
Yeah.
And no response.
Right.
So,
Well, it's free, just have it.
No, I'll turn it away at the door. I would be honest about that sort of thing. I would never want to find out a couple of weeks down the line that I have to pay for it now, because I've actually ordered a replacement.
Okay.
So I don't want two when I just need one. So YouTube Shorts is going to be running ads on because daily views have passed something like 30 billion.
30 billion. Wow.
So they're doing maybe, I don't know what TikTok's, Ted, you would know. How many views does TikTok have?
I think it's 35 billion. I think it's more, but it's not far off, is it? I mean, it's a phenomenal for YouTube Shorts, which was really very much an afterthought. It felt like, and late to the scene, a lot long after TikTok was going, and they've very quickly got up to that kind of level of daily views. I still watch TikTok primarily and don't watch YouTube Shorts, but you're the other way around, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been using YouTube Shorts, but I'm a bit annoyed that I keep seeing the same things. If I go in the next day, it'll offer me the same videos again. But I haven't seen any adverts, but then I am YouTube Premium, and I wouldn't like to think that I'm going to see any adverts.
Yeah, maybe that's the difference. I do see adverts on TikTok, repetitive ones, and I tell them whenever I see them, because you can tap on it and say, I don't want to see it, and then they say to you, why not? And then you can choose the reason. And I always say...
Because it's a bloody advert.
Yeah, because it's really annoying. No, I always say, I'm seeing this too much. And to be fair to them, when I've done that, I've not seen it again. So they do respond to that. But no doubt Google won't with YouTube. They'll just bombard you with adverts. But yes, I would hope too that I won't see them being premium.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's a brief flirtation that I think will happen here, but if it happens with YouTube Premium, heads will roll. Yeah. So Google is can now ask Google to remove your phone number from searches. Where would your phone number turn up on a search there, Ted?
Well, for example, if you put your phone number on a Facebook page, which is a public URL. Then a Google spider can go and search all the Facebook pages and your number can turn up. So if someone searches on your phone number or your email address or anything else, or it could be on your website or just anywhere on the website, apart from Inside MeWe, of course, which is a lockdown closed wall garden, which URLs are not open in. And yes, your number, your email address, whatever, could be out there and what have you. However, there is a caveat to this. You've got to apply. Every individual's got to apply, and Google have said that they will, consider applications as they come in. Can you imagine how many months that's going to take for anything to happen?
Yeah. And
also, they can turn it down if, for example, the information should be publicly available. Like if it's a government website. Open phone number or whatever. So if you apply for the wrong thing, they're going to filter that out. It seems like a disaster waiting to happen to me. It's much more sensible if people don't put their phone number out on websites and be a bit more sensible.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way you can check to see if your number's out there. I guess you can Google your number.
Just Google your number, yeah. If you Google your website, your email address, you get all the results from that, yeah. But in Googling your phone number, you're giving Google your phone number again. You can't win.
Yeah, I'm just Googling your number.
You bastard.
It comes up in the Case catalogue, the Fragrance catalogue, and bikini.com, the Wanderlust subscription box. Interesting.
Yeah, so I can't see that really working very well. I think they'll just be bombarded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably, yeah. And senators looking to get their number. Because I suppose that can happen, isn't where a forum, someone finds out some politician's number, they can post it on a forum, and the number can get out there.
You could do that to anyone.
Like the time Boris Johnson's number was out there for, 17 years or something like that. And no one discovered it because it was in a report that no one read.
If you want to stitch someone up, you can easily do it by various different means like that, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
I'm worried I'm not going to wrong you in the future.
Yeah.
So one last one in the... is it one last one, actually? Well, I suppose, kind of. Moving into gaming territory here. Netflix are announcing yet more games, and they could have up to 50 mobile games out by the end of the year.
Ooh.
Which, that's your subscription at work, folks. Rather than producing new content starring Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, they're bringing games like Exploding Kittens to your platform. I don't think people get into Netflix to buy games or to have games.
Exploding Kittens.
Yeah, it's coming out at the end of May.
That's very funny.
So
I got to play that one.
and you'll play it once and then forget about it.
Of course.
So Netflix are putting up your subscription, and yet they are investing that money in a game library that very few of us are actually going to play. How do you feel about that, Ted?
I'm not likely to play it, but on the other hand, if you're paying for Netflix anyway, then you might say to yourself, well, I'll have a casual gaming session with my Netflix stuff. The thing is that people didn't realise at first with this is that this all works through the Play Store. So if you go to Netflix, you choose a game to play, and it shoots you off to the Android, the Play Store, the Google Play Store, and you download the game from the Play Store in the normal way, and then Netflix automatically throws a switch when it's installed on your phone and allows you to play it. So it's not really inside Netflix's UI or front end or anything. It's just a game. It's their badged game, and that's how you do it. But it'll be interesting to see if they get outside of the kind of fluffy exploding kittens thing and do something serious. I don't know what the games there are at the moment, but I'm probably guessing that there's nothing, like PUBG or anything, that serious gamers are going to want to do. It's all casual stuff, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think they've got 18 titles or something at the moment, and they're going to be bringing another 30 or so in the coming months to total 50 by the end of the year. But I just can't get past. Initially, people subscribed to Netflix because they had such a huge collection of 20,000 titles of feature films that you could watch, and gradually they've dwindled that down to 50 or to 5,000 titles, maybe even less than that now, because they're producing their own content, and your subscription goes toward them producing their own content and buying up productions that can be streamable from Netflix. And quality is up and down. Some things are really good, but does it justify the amount of money that you're paying? Putting something together that isn't movie based and TV based is completely different, and I don't agree that Netflix should be here. And some people have suggested that Netflix should have two different contracts. Then they should have a gaming contract, which I imagine is where they're going to eventually push this out to, following in the footsteps of Stadia and things like that. They want to set up their own streaming version of for gaming. And this is that sort of them testing the waters, maybe ever so slightly, somehow linking it to that. But where people who are paying for Netflix and have absolutely no desire to play these games are still having to pay for them. I guess you could say that the argument there is you're paying for them to produce maybe true crime documentaries whenever you have absolutely no interest in it, and you want to see the feature films that they're putting together. You're all in. You've got to pay for everything, and you take away what you like from it. Otherwise, you cancel altogether. But gaming is something completely different. It's an entirely different entity, and I don't like the idea of the money that they are putting my subscription up by being used to create this gaming channel. And I already pay money to Google Play to have a gaming channel right there for my mobile phone and my tablet where I want to use it. So I don't appreciate Netflix siphoning off part of my subscription to pay for this.
Yeah, you tell them. I remember when Netflix was a DVD by post service. We used to
Love film.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah, and that was amazing. And it's not that long ago, really. It's not that long ago comparatively. But Netflix now is just the name just says what it does, which is what it does online. But yeah, postal DVDs. I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, probably that was a thing.
Probably, yeah, it would have been. But it's just another reason why people are turning off Netflix.
Yeah.
And I think piracy's on the rise because people do still want to see some of the Netflix shows, but they're not willing to pay.
I'll keep paying for Better Call Saul and Ozark.
But now they've come to an end.
Yeah, that's true.
What's
yeah,
next?
they are. Indeed, that's a bit of a tricky one.
Exploding Kittens, and then if that takes off, you get the Exploding Kittens animated show.
That's really funny. I've got to tune in to see what that's about.
All right. Well, on slightly more exciting news, there are 2 new cartridges announced for the Evercade VS.
Yeah.
These are the first ones since the actual VS came to market with its four cartridges that are already available. The first one we're getting is the Jalico. I've probably pronounced that wrong, or Jalico. Arcade 1. This is a collection of Rodland, which I remember on the Amiga. Saint Dragon, never heard of. Earth Defense Force, I remember that. Avenging Spirit, haven't heard of. 64th Street, that detective story, I haven't heard of. Psy Battler, haven't heard of that either. P-47 Phantom Fighter, I vaguely remember that on the Amiga, possibly, not sure. And the Astyanax, which is one I don't know at all. But it's a collection of 8 good old-fashioned arcade-looking games. Shoot-em-ups, beat-em-ups, all those sorts of things. And the other one is the Galco Arcade Collection 2, which only has 6 on it this time, but the quality of them seems to be really, really high. Big Karnak, which I'm quite excited about. TH Strikes Back, Thunder Hoop 2. I don't know what that is. World Rally 2, dead excited about that because World Rally 1 was great. Maniac Square, looks like a Tetris clone type thing. Squash, which is a squash game. And Touch and Go, which is a beach volleyball game. So, good games for 2 players. That's the important part about the VS, is you sit down with a pal and have a play.
Girlies
take a controller
volleyball.
each. Actually, I think the image here has boys doing volleyball. Okay. But World Rally Fever looks a notable improvement over World Rally Fever 1. World Rally Fever 2, that is. Dead excited. Glad to see some new cartridges for the Evercade VS, in addition to the 2 new cartridges we're getting for the Evercade that we covered a couple of shows ago.
So how often would you say, how many hours a week are you still using your VS? If you discount the first, the new kind of first couple of weeks.
Well, it's not getting as much time at the moment because I have the A500 sitting beside it, the A500 Mini. So I do, of an evening after finishing work, I'll come up and maybe spend an hour, and I'm turning on the Mini A500 more so. But I did have the VS on, I think it was last Sunday, I had a wee game, because I do still like it. I just have to change the HDMI on the back of the TV. So that's added effort to play the Evercade.
Yeah, what you need is a nice new monitor to just sit there and do nothing else.
That's an idea. I don't even have the free HDMI on the back of this monitor because my bloody work computer's plugged into it.
Or you could have an HDMI switch. Come on, tech addicts.
No, I do have one of those somewhere. I just can't find it. And I'm not going to buy another one because I've got one.
Yeah. Unlike your Canon compact Ixus cameras, where one was never enough, you needed 42.
And I haven't touched them since I put them in a drawer. I'll end up throwing them in the bin sometime soon. I had high hopes, but just life got in the way of those high hopes.
Yeah.
So, Chrome OS news, you weren't able to turn anything up, but I did because I was sick of getting dazzled. And this is the problem with Chrome at the moment, is whenever you're doing a little bit of, evening work and you dazzle yourself whenever you flip from one screen to another, because some things are compatible with dark mode, some things aren't. Google Docs hasn't been compatible with dark mode very much. However, there is a flag now that you can turn on and get Google Docs in dark mode. What do you think of that there, Ted?
I tried dark mode. In fact, on my phone, I've got Google Docs in dark mode, and I can't make up my mind as to whether I want to use it or not. Because on the phone, it tends to look wrong, and when you're using different coloured blocks of text, which we tend to do in recording notes for the shows, it kind of looks a bit odd, and some don't work very well on dark backgrounds, and some are okay. And I did actually turn this on and turned it off again. I thought, no, I don't actually want this. I do get the thing about being blinded, though, and it is nice to have the choice, absolutely. I don't know, have you turned it on and left it on?
I have used it a couple of times now. It's especially good, in the evenings whenever your wife's falling asleep and you turn on the computer to do a wee bit of writing, because my biography's coming along quite well. Gareth, the tale of a twat. And it's a roller coaster of a ride filled with sizzling gypsies.
Yeah.
I knew I could quote Blackadder somewhere along the lines today. It just works. If you suddenly need to jump into a spreadsheet to do a bit of budgeting and you don't want to blind everything and give off as much light, it's great to have.
Yeah, it's great to have the choice, definitely. But I just can't decide whether I want it or not. And if you can turn it on and off on the fly, you see, digging into Chrome flags is not, to me, on the fly in order to throw the switch back off. And then you've got to relaunch Chrome browser to actually make the change. So that's not really on the fly. What they want is a button on the top to say everyone, and they might do that as time goes on. They might get the switch available for people. So hopefully.
Well, just keep it on all the time and get used to it and save your battery.
Yeah, you could do that. As I say, I just didn't like the look of it much and decided that I didn't want it. But it may be one of the things that they're going to put a switch on in the forthcoming Google I/O, however. There are some Chrome OS sessions. Actually, the biggest thing they seem to be shouting about with the Google I/O in relation to Chrome OS, from what I can see on the Tinternet, is the removal of the gap between the little e and the capital O. So
my word.
The badging of Chrome OS is...
Stop the presses.
No gap.
Stop the presses.
We don't want a gap. It's Chrome OS, not Chrome OS. Anyway, there's going to be various sessions in the OS specifically to do with Chrome OS, so tune into that if you want to. I'll put a link in the show notes for the access to the Google YouTube channel, which will show that on the live. They're talking about Chromebooks in classrooms, about gaming with Chrome OS. Obviously, that would be up your street. You might want to tune into that bit. Counter abuse technology is another one, and TensorFlow, which is all to do with AI. And for those developers that are looking for, movement in terms of AI and accessibility, particularly, I think the TensorFlow stuff is going the way of that. Anyway, that Google I/O is on the 11th of May. I think in BST, it's probably starting at 6 p.m, isn't it? I think it is. But anyway, I'll check that.
Yeah, because, I'd fully recommend people go on to YouTube the next day, because certain outfits will have Google I/O in 15 minutes.
Yes.
And you'll be able to watch all the highlights, or listen to Ted, because he'll have sat through the whole thing and might still be alive at the end of it.
Like the the demonstration. Yeah, very good. Right.
All right, our hark back this week, Ted.
When I put this in, I thought to myself, have we done this before? And I don't think we have. Hopefully not.
No.
It's the Sony Discman and other makes of portable CD player, which started appearing in the 80s, I think, early 80s.
79.
79, right. And I particularly like the ones that Sony made. So it's portable. It's typically a round lump of plastic that is the same thing as a Walkman, only it takes CDs. And there are loads and loads of options on these devices. LCD displays on some, buttons all over other ones, in-wire remote controls, which I really used to like. The Sony ones I went for because I just like the quality of the Sony stuff, as I always do. Some of them invariably had cheap plasticky floppy lids, so when you open them up you think, oh, good grief, and it just bends around. Dubious opening mechanisms as well. The point about this really was, though, that it was interesting the way in which we all seemed really happy to suddenly size up from what had become really dinky little cassette Walkman units with tapes in them, and suddenly size didn't matter. We were so driven to embrace CD technology, we were prepared to carry these much bigger devices around in a bag or a great big coat pocket or something, just so we could have our CDs. And then you've got to carry the CDs with you. So, you know, that was really the interesting hark back, how we were all prepared to do that. And I was in there too. They typically didn't have speakers. I can't remember one that had a speaker. They were all headphone driven, much like the cassette Walkman, really. All sorts of shapes, round, square, thick and thin. I fondly remember an Akai unit I had. Do you remember Akai? AKAI?
Yeah.
I couldn't track down the model of the one in question, though. Although I did track down the Panasonic SLCT 582V, which I had, and I really liked that one. Lots of the controls were built into the more sturdy lid on that. I think Panasonic were making them much nicer, and it was really nice. In fact, during my research on this, I did find a Bluetooth one. I can't remember which one it was now, and I wasn't aware of that. I can't remember how long Bluetooth has been around, but certainly in the early days, Bluetooth wasn't a thing. It must have been a much later one, I just love my trips to Dixon's. Dixon's shop window was, if on a Saturday or my day off, whenever it was, I just head for Dixon's. I loved hanging out in Dixon's. I could be there all morning and then decide on buying something or not buying something, and then get it from stock. None of this waiting for Amazon. No Amazon next day delivery needed. Take it home with you and start using it. And Dixon's was just my favourite shop ever. So, yeah, really, really nice. And, the point was we just didn't seem to care about the size of these things and carrying loads of CDs around with us. How did you get on with this? I'm sure you must have had some of these.
Well, over the years, I only had two.
Yeah.
One I can't remember the name of, but it was a really cheap little grey one that actually lasted for the longest time in my portable CD use days, time of using it. And I think it might have been AWA or some company, Akaya, or whatever it was you said earlier.
Yeah.
Akai, we'll go with that. And I picked it up dead cheap and moved from personal stereo to it. And it was my first usage of CDs. Yeah. And it only had skip and replay, so go back and forward, skip between tracks, which really bothered me because, using a Walkman, you're able to rewind part of a song and listen to part of a song again, as opposed to having to hit the button and then sit through the whole song to hear that bit of a song again. If you're trying to pick out lyrics or something, or maybe there's a stand-up comedian or something you're listening to and you thought something very funny, you have to hit back and it'll take you back to the start of the sketch or whatever, or the song, and you're, that's a bit annoying. But I used that for a long time, but it was really skippy. And if I sort of picked up the pace when I was walking, it would the CD would constantly skip, so it had no buffer in it at all, which was one thing that you had to look for. Yeah. And it took me a long while before I upgraded, and I think I found the one that I upgraded to. I know what it looked like, and it was actually bigger again. but it played MP3s, and I think it was the Panasonic SL MP30 or something thereabouts. It was a bluish one that could play. You could dump a whole load of MP3 songs onto a CD, and typically, not actually burning them as songs, but actually burning a data CD full of MP3s.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah. Okay.
And you could have a couple of hundred songs on one disc. But it would just show up as 01, 02, 03, 04. So it would have the file. It wouldn't read the name of the MP3 or read any of the information out of the info file or the what's it called, the
yeah, I know what you mean,
background information. So whenever you clicked through each of the files, you didn't know where you were going, and also you had to start at the start and work your way through it again.
Yeah.
It had my car got broken into on Cameron Street in Belfast, and anyone who knows Belfast will go, sorry, my family has just invaded to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
They're going to play crazy golf while I sit here and do this bloody podcast. My car got broken into on Cameron Street, and the stereo got nicked. But the stereo I had an aux round the back, and I was able to put this on the dashboard and take it with me and plug it in through my car. So that's where it became useful again. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I did love this.
Two
and
AAs.
It took me a while.
Two AAs.
Two AAs.
Yeah.
And this lasted for a long time on those two AAs. I don't ever remember changing it. I still have it out in the shed.
Oh, wow.
So I should dig it
I
out.
tell you what I'd completely forgotten about until you started talking there was the buffer thingy. You're quite right. Some of them, they skipped about when they were in your pocket. But the better ones, as you say, with a decent buffer, they didn't do that. And I think that's probably one of the reasons I went for the Panasonics and the Sonys. But I had a trail of these. I was always buying and selling them because I just was fascinated by the tech. And you're right, as new features came along, I wanted the latest and greatest. Yeah, really good memories of those, but just amazed that we tolerated the size of them.
Yeah, having a look at the specs of that Panasonic, 35 hours playback on two AA batteries. That was a long time. It was quite a few car journeys. I don't ever remember replacing them because it was stuck to my dashboard, and then I think Velcro or something like that, and I just ripped it off whenever I needed to take it with me or to stop some of the Belfast hoodies from stealing it. But it had a non-skip system of 100 seconds backup memory for MP3 and 45 seconds for CD DA.
Good.
So that's interesting that you wouldn't get a skip on an MP3, would you? I suppose it's reading off the CD.
Yeah,
okay.
So, on the CD,
of course.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's really good stuff. And of course you can, because it's digital, the good side of that is that you can, program random play, or you can, some of them I think you could do a kind of, a particular, what's it called? Playlist and that sort of thing. So yeah, it did, I think as time went on, they just got more and more capable, until they just suddenly disappeared, didn't they? That was it, gone. When the MP3 player took off big time and everyone was buying those, it just went away.
And don't forget about the mini disc player.
Oh,
it
yeah.
had its 5 minutes.
We've done that on Harkback before, haven't we? Yeah. Yes, that's right, it did. It was a very short run, wasn't it? But it was there, yeah.
Yeah. That's where I moved to, and then I bought an MP3 player, a cheap one off eBay, probably.
Right.
But we'll come to those another day.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right, bargain basement. There's quite a few in here, actually, come to think of it. I think there's some really good deals, too. The first one is the Xbox Series S. It's currently on Amazon for £227.50p. This is the 512 gigabyte one. So this is the one that's kind of recommended if you're looking to get into the Xbox Gaming Pass thing. Plus a little bit of localized content if you need it. But I think that's a cracker of a deal if you want to be streaming your games. And it's for sale, bought off Amazon. and typically the price sits around $350, but it has dropped down considerably to for a brand new one to £227.50.
Wow.
Looking at Keepa. So good place to get it, and you get 33% off the Game Pass as well if you buy it through Amazon too.
Very nice.
Yeah.
My first one is nicking yours from last week, which is the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 Plus 5G Android tablet, which is still reduced by kind of 35%. You can get the 5G version cellular for $649, the Wi-Fi only version $564. But yeah, if you link in the show notes, it takes you to the page where a number of them are all they're up to 35% off. So there you go, same deal, still available if you want a Galaxy Tab.
Yeah, that's a great price actually. It's just such a good level of hardware, and you don't have to pay the premium of getting the newest one, and it'll still get you your 4 years worth of updates you still have.
Yeah, that's right. Good stuff.
Yeah, Bluetooth is where that is at. I bought a Bluetooth dongle for my desktop computer recently because it works better with phone link. Having a Bluetooth connection allows you to take calls from your computer as well. The TP-Link Nano USB 4.0 adapter will achieve this for you, and it's been reduced in price from £13 down to £7, which is a saving of 46%. So if you want a little bit of extra compatibility with your mobile phone from your Windows computer, I'd recommend this.
Why don't you just use your phone companion and just because that all does it for you.
Your phone companion.
The Microsoft thingy, which is now called Phone Link or something, but it used to be.
That's what I said. Yeah, but you can't. I don't think you can make calls through
Yeah, you
that
can
if you don't have Bluetooth.
Oh, if your computer hasn't got Bluetooth. Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Sorry, I thought all computers have Bluetooth these days.
No, if you build your own desktop, like the desktop you have, probably doesn't have Bluetooth.
Yeah, it
so
does.
this can add
it
to it.
It does. Yeah. It
Oh,
does.
right, okay.
That's why I was surprised, because I just thought if you were building a computer, you would just put a Bluetooth thingy in it.
No,
Right.
no.
Okay.
I do have a Bluetooth thingy in it now.
You do now. Well done.
Yeah, for only £7.
The Lenovo IdeaPad 5 Chromebook, which we spoke about before, has now been, it's out there in mainstream channels. It was kind of hard to get before, only from Lenovo Online and other selected places, but it's also been the base model. So this is not the i3 or the i5 version, but the base model is been reduced on Amazon from $379 to $299. So that's the 14-inch IdeaPad, which was the bigger and better and refined version than the first one that came out, which we kept looking at as well. But yeah, there's a bit of a saving there for anyone that's in for that and doesn't want the better chipset ones.
Incidentally, the i3 and i5 aren't actually available from Amazon currently. They're not for sale there. They have 11 of the what processor is in it? The Pentium 7505.
Yeah. I don't know how that will perform really, but the reviews that I saw on Chrome Unboxed with Robbie, he did this and he was really impressed by the 5, the IdeaPad 5. So I think that it should be okay.
Yeah, that's the cheapest it has ever been. Good call. Nice. Next up is Microsoft Surfaces. There are 2 of them currently on sale on Amazon, of all places, and they've been dropped in price. First up, we'll go with the more expensive first, even though it's second on the list here. The Microsoft Surface Laptop 4, the super thin one, that's 13.5 inch with a touchscreen display, and it comes in blue. It's got the Intel 11th Gen quad-core i5 with 8GB of RAM, 512GB of SSD-ness. Comes with Windows 10. But probably there will be an update to Windows 11, I would like to think, is £879, and that's down from £1,269. Now, you have to factor in that is a 13.5-inch touchscreen as opposed to the 15-inch version, which is out there too. But there is the slightly cheaper version of it, which is the Microsoft Surface Laptop Go. This is the ultra-thin 12.4-inch version, which has an i5 inside. This is the 10th gen, not the 11th gen. 8 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of SSDness, and Windows Home in S mode. Scary that.
Uh-oh.
Yes, and it's been reduced in price from £699 down to £549, and that's a saving of 21%. But I reckon you'll probably be able to do something with that operating system there to bring it back up to speed,
you can.
because those specs would more than be able to handle Windows 11.
Yeah, you can take the S mode off. I did that with the Go, the original Surface Go. You just have to jump through some hoops, and you put the proper version of Windows on it and get rid of that stupid S thing. And if you've got 8 gigs of RAM, that would be no problem at all.
Yeah, it's a well-spec'd thing. I guess you could say the storage is a wee bit low on it, but for £549, you're going to be hard pressed to get a better built quality product. Well, I suppose people could argue as well, but this is a Microsoft Surface, so it's going to be top price
I do like
anyway.
those.
Some people want them.
I do like them, and I think I prefer the more expensive one, the Laptop 4. Even though it's more expensive, I think that's the one I would go for personally. And yes, they've got to be 11 ready, haven't they? So good call. The Oppo Find X3 Pro is currently on Amazon for £793, which is quite a lot of money for a next or last generation phone, because the Find X5 Pro is out, but it does have that microscope camera on it, which is really good fun. I've been playing with it recently. This is an import from Amazon Europe, so be warned, but it should be, it will have a global warranty and everything. So if you're in for that, then there's a bit of a saving, like £250 or something.
That's not bad, yeah. It seems to be fluctuating in price. It's currently sitting at 806.
Oh, is it?
But I can see it was 793
yesterday
over the weekend there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it is a wee bit up and down. So
It's a lovely phone. I'm
whenever you're saving quite a bit.
Yeah, it really is a nice phone. I'm working on a written review at the moment because it's in hand, and I'm really, really liking it. You're the Oppo fan, or have been over the time we've known each other. Recently switched, of course, to Pixel, but the Oppo thing, I'm finding Colour OS actually very good indeed.
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's a decent enough operating system, but their hardware is really excellent, and that AirVook thing is nice too. The 30-watt AirVook would certainly charge your device really quickly and nicely. Last up is the, I think we featured this last week, but I'm not sure if I was able to say one thing about it. This is the Apple AirPods Pro with the MagSafe charging case. It's been reduced in price from £239 down to £170 and 10p. But you can also opt for 5 monthly payments on Amazon, and this is through the Apple Store as well.
I can't.
Well, if you were as cool as me, you would be able to. And if you're as cool as me, and let us know. Because it really does seem to be quite bizarre as to what way they're working these out. Yeah. Maybe, Ted, you've got too many going on.
I haven't got any going on. They won't let me have them.
Well, maybe you're not doing it as frequently.
Really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's taking a time out from you to turn to me.
Yeah.
So you can get them for 5 monthly payments of £34 and 2p, which I think is a bargain. I'd quite happily have those if I was an iPhone user and I wanted a pair of these, which I very much do. 30 quid a month is grand, £34 a month.
Indeed, very nice indeed. Yeah. Well, they're not very nice for me, but I'm sure they're very nice for you. And incidentally, you can use them with other devices. You don't have to be an Apple user. I've got a pair of Apple earphone dongle thingies, whatever they're called, AirPods, and they work fine. There are a couple of functions that you miss out on because you haven't got an iPhone attached to it at the time, but not a lot. They still work really well.
Excellent. Right. Well, yes, I would, but I'm sitting waiting on a certain pair of Sennheisers that I mentioned earlier in the show, and those will be my next logical upgrade for a pair of headphones.
Indeed. Or indeed earphones.
As you want, yes. Okay, we'll go with that. So, yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing me at gareth@techaddicts.uk, and we're on Twitter as well, at techaddictsuk. You can also find me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles, for all my nonsense that I'm putting out, and by garethmiles.com 2, which is my written nonsense that I'm putting out. Ted, where can they find you?
Including some nice film reviews I noticed recently, which are beautifully penned, I have to say. TedSalmon.com is for me. Stuff that is on that site is stuff that you might need if you want to track down any of our MeWe groups, any of our other audio podcasts, and you'll find it there and won't get lost. TedSalmon.com, all the links. Ted's PayPal account is, I'll say that again. If you want to buy me a coffee, that'll be most welcome, and it is at paypal.me/Ted Salmon. And also my Amazon link. I've not been paid by Amazon now for the last 3 months. If you buy stuff from Amazon, pretty please, if you're not using Gareth's link, can you use mine? Thank you so much. You can get there at tinyurl.com/Amazon Ted UK. Thank you all.
Yeah, I encourage people to do that because it keeps the show running. Keeps us a wee bit happy about getting up early on a Sunday, and actually me losing my entire Sunday now to editing this and trying to get it out before dinner because it's so damn long and I have to cut out every time Ted uses a C word.
But don't worry, because your family are now playing crazy golf, so you've got plenty of time.
I know, I was hoping to get a couple of holes in myself, but don't make any comments there. I know what your filthy mind is like. All right, well, we'll get in touch with you in a future episode. Just get a message.
Try that again.
Yeah, sorry, a message came through from my mother. Her outside light has stopped working. I'll have to go and fix it as well. Well, that's going to delay the show, isn't it? Right, yes, we'll speak to you all next week. Take care now.
Bye.